Welcome to the 23rd episode of SourceCast. Joining me today is Nantan Jex
Hello.
and Relax Alax.
Hey, how you doing?
And I'm your host, Push Dustin, and today we'll be talking about a Smash for Switch. So the first thing is this thing even going to happen? There's been a lot of rumors circling around. We had Dr. Sergon Toto about over a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, stating that Bandai Namco was developing a launch title for Switch, which included Super Smash Bros. That was the first rumor.
Yeah, I
and
remember.
Then after that, I believe Emily Rogers and Tamaki later confirmed that they also heard that several Wii U games were getting ports for the Switch, including Smash, along with Splatoon and Mario Maker. And then very recently, we had Laura Kate Dale state that Smash is still coming for the Switch and that it will not come immediately at launch. It'll come 6 months afterwards. Is that correct?
Well, it'll be in the launch window period. It won't be launch
wasn't
day.
At launch.
Yeah, not necessarily 6 months. It could be 3 months. It's
okay.
within the first year, basically.
Oh, okay. So there's been a lot of rumors circulating around a Smash for the new Switch, and it seems very, very likely that's going to happen. So are you guys going to be okay if it ends up being a straight port of the Wii U game?
For me, I when I was first researching it, like way back, I think it was a couple of months ago, I remember making a video on it, and I kind of assumed that we didn't know anything at that point, and it was just saying that there was a Smash title for Switch, and I assumed it could either be a fully new game or just the port. So I've always thought it was just the port of Smash for Wii U. And only recently I began like speculating if it was going to include more characters just to improve sales, and like, because more characters, more people are going to be interested in the title, of course, and that's the best way to get customers to be interested, especially if they already own the Wii U version and they see no point in buying it.
Yeah,
I think that's the same for me. Like, for people who didn't own a Wii U, it's fine. Like, this will be like a new game for them. But for people who own a Wii U like us, there's no real motivation to buy that. I mean, if you're competitive and the Switch version is what they start using competitively, then I guess that is the motivation. But that doesn't affect the general audience, and I feel like that's not something that would be taken into consideration if I was Nintendo. So I feel like if it was just a straight port, great, but it wouldn't really interest me.
Well, it seems like a lot of the Switch titles that are getting ports are going to be updated. For example, we saw a glimpse of Splatoon in the Switch reveal trailer, and it already had new animations.
Yeah.
For the characters.
And a new map and new weapons.
Oh, so the map was confirmed to be
everything,
new?
Yeah. Map, weapons, hairstyles, animations. Pretty much
there
was
hairstyles, yep.
Next to nothing outside of how the game actually played was old stuff. It was all new.
And then I believe Laura said that Mario Kart for Switch was going to include 64 tracks.
I think that was Emily Rogers. I think she was the one who said Mario Kart. So the Splatoon one was stated to be an enhanced port with new stuff, and the Mario Kart one was stated to be the Wii U version with another 4 cups and however many. I didn't specify characters, but also a battle mode. So basically, but it would be Mario Kart 8's engine. It would have everything Mario Kart 8 had, making it essentially an enhanced port.
So do you think that this will happen with Smash for Wii U and Switch? Do you think that it would be an enhanced port?
I think it's pretty likely that they would do that. I don't know about the team. They've been pretty quiet on the side of like Smash Bros for Wii U, and we haven't heard anything from Sakurai since the last presentation. So in my eyes, I think it would be, I mean, it would make sense for them to do it, like I said, just to add stuff, especially since they're doing that with the other Wii U titles. And I feel like if they went about just releasing the games like as they were on the other consoles, they're already doing that for a couple of them. If like the trailer is showing us the Mario Kart and Splatoon, and they already showed that they're going to add stuff on top of them. So I feel like for Smash, with like, because it's Smash, they would have to do that just to make it more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it depends if Sakurai does come back, considering Smash for Wii U is his game, but on the assumption that he is at least overseeing the project and putting some input, even if he's got another project as his main focus, I see no reason for them to not add new content. Like, by the time this game comes out, let's assume that they started development on content for this game back in February when the last DLC came out and all that. There's been like, it'll at least have been a year and a half by the time this came out, which is plenty of time to get at least some new content out there. Like, consider when we look at how long it took for DLC and how much of it we got in that like year time frame, I feel like there's no real reason why there couldn't be any new content for this.
Yeah, we got 7 new characters in a year.
Yep.
With DLC. And one thing to add is that with the last update, I did notice that the development path was updated in the files. And so they reintroduced branching into the folder outputs.
Mm-hmm.
And according to some of the people that I've talked to, some other people that I've had conflicting information on this. Some people say that branching is only used when porting has happened. Other people have said that it's just a standard program and it's a standard workflow setup.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the company, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any information on how Bandai Namco particularly sets up their games. But yeah, with that, if Surgan Toto came out with that rumor, I believe in January, even before the last DLC came out.
Yeah.
So it's not unlikely that they started porting the game to the next system.
But there's also that job listing for Smash 6, which happened a long time ago, whether that was for DLC or for possible plans to port it over.
Well,
like, we don't know. I think it's safe to assume that new content probably didn't start till after the DLC was done, because that's what they wanted to focus on. But actually porting the system over and everything that entails, that could have been planned during DLC when the game came out for Wii U. Like, that could have been going on alongside with a small part of the team just porting it over with the new code and stuff like that. Like, we don't know when that could take place. So they could have had a complete game with no new stuff last February, and now it's just a matter of adding stuff in for whatever they thought their release date was, whatever their end goal was for this game.
Yeah, for the Smash 6 thing, Sakurai has stated that the next game will be Smash 6. Because Smash 4 is the 3DS version and Smash 5 is the Wii U version.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't ever see that, but it makes sense.
We haven't translated it yet.
It's a secret source game, only knowledge.
No, I mean, I've said it a bunch of times, but it's just something that we haven't published yet. Yeah.
We talked about it when the job listing came up, because people were like really confused about what happened with Smash 5, and people were confused if Smash 6 would mean DLC, but Sakurai stated it is an actual game, or it would be the game. So
that's why I get really annoyed when people say Smash and they include the 4 as the A. And they use it to refer to both versions of the 3DS and Wii U.
Pedantic.
Anyway, so there was that, and also with the DLC, Sakurai and his team were both planning, making, and polishing content all at the same time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when Lucas was about finished, that's probably when they started working on the other characters.
Yeah, I think. But
for example,
in April, we got all the listings for, although they weren't named except for Roy and Ryu.
Are you talking about the Mario slots?
Yeah, the Mario slots for...
The Mario slots, they didn't include Corrin.
Yeah, they didn't include Corrin. That was going to be my point. Back in April, it was probably Bayonetta and Cloud as the Mario slots, and then Roy and Ryu, and then Corrin got added probably about June, July. We're going off.
There's some
we're assuming.
controversy over that because in the 3DS version, I believe Corrin is listed last.
Yes, he is.
But in the Wii U version, I believe Bayonetta is.
Is he? I thought I hadn't heard that. I thought Corrin was listed last in both of them.
Maybe I'll have to double check. Don't source me on that.
I mean
then.
that makes sense from what it is. I mean, you have a slot open for you have Roy and Ryu who you know are coming out. You have Cloud who you've got planned for later but haven't started. You have a slot for a Ballot character to do later, and then they said that Corrin was kind of added. You know, they suddenly thought, oh, maybe having a character to represent latest like what's current is. So it makes sense if Corrin's at least the last slot added, even if he was started before Bayonetta.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's just logical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like with Corrin, they just wanted a character to represent a newer entry because they didn't want the roster to feel so outdated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to say about that. Sorry. Alex, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, you guys are the Source game, and I didn't know half of that stuff, so that was a refresher for me. I haven't thought about I haven't been looking at the Smash stuff for a while, so I didn't even know about the Corrin and Bayonetta file, but I didn't know anything about that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we went over the rumors and we kind of discussed a little bit if we're okay with an enhanced port. So let's talk if Sakurai should come back. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back in time to the Fire Emblem. I believe it was the 25th anniversary interview that we've translated. Yeah, and that's the one where Sakurai states that he can't make Smash forever, but he's not sure at the same time if the team can handle it on their own. And so he's kind of going back and forth on if he's gonna even appear in the next Smash.
Well, I mean, he always says at the end of every Smash Brothers game, this will be my last one. It's too stressful working on this, especially this latest one with his injuries. But then, if I recall, he preferred making the DLC.
Yes.
Because it was far less stress-inducing.
Yeah, there was a lot smaller team.
Yeah. And
he just enjoyed it. It was a lot.
And I feel like with an enhanced port, because he doesn't have to make everything from the ground up, because all the work is already done with the single player content. I mean, they could add more, but with the characters and a lot of the stages, a lot of what he's got left to do is just designing. So designing more characters, more stages, and stuff like that, just like he did with the DLC.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a lot less. I mean, developing a game and developing DLC like totally two different things. So where they finished the development last year after that presentation, and they said this was it for Smash. That doesn't mean they can go into a smaller team and begin producing. They don't need the entire team to be making the full game like they were. So I feel like it would be more that would enhance the possibility of new characters and new content, just because it wouldn't take a lot out of him. Although he has been working on the game for quite a while, so there's that to consider. So maybe he would have left it to a team but Sakurai, he likes his characters and he likes making them the way he likes to make them.
Yeah, Sakurai is very, very particular.
Yeah. Well, this is why I wonder if more of an overview supervisor position for this particular one might be what he's doing while working on another project. Like maybe, because obviously I think all the characters would have probably been decided from the beginning, unless they have any sort of clone characters, or maybe the fact that the Switch is coming out in March. I know a lot of people thought it was never confirmed for this year, but there were always a lot of hints that it would be this year, and then it became March, and now the Smash isn't even meant to be a launch day. I was thinking earlier maybe that they'd planned a certain amount, or the assumption it was coming out this year, and because it got pushed back, they're like, oh, we have some more development time, and we know what Sakurai's done with that in the past. So maybe he's like, oh, what extra content can I push out? What can I put out? Any clone characters? Can I do add any extra features?
Yeah.
But apart from that, all of the initial design stuff would have been done at the beginning. So then it's just up to the programmers and stuff to bring his visions to life. And I could see him going in and checking and making sure they're on the right path. But apart from that and actually playtesting the new stuff, he doesn't need to be as fully involved as he was in the past.
Yeah. And I believe towards the end of Smash for Wii U, he stated that he kind of gave up control on the balancing.
Yeah.
He wasn't as involved with it, and then we saw the Bayonetta patch come out at a time when he said he was taking a breather.
Yeah. Like, he had a team of balancers this time around rather than just himself. So,
No, there was a team in Brawl too.
no, yeah, but it was a very small team, if I
Yeah.
recall. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I would like to add is for Sakurai not coming back or saying that he's not coming back in Melee and Brawl, that's because he was leaving HAL Laboratories, and
Yeah.
he really doesn't know if he's coming back or not.
Well, that was true with Melee, but not necessarily with Brawl. I mean, with Brawl, he wasn't a part of Nintendo, and he
Yeah, and that's why he couldn't, for sure say that he would make Smash again. He
Yeah.
still can't really.
I guess so. Yeah.
Like Nintendo owns the copyright for the project plan.
Yeah. No,
He stated that with Brawl he gave up his rights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Nintendo could, in theory, go off and do this without him entirely, but I feel like for what is essentially his game, and then they're just adding more features on an enhanced version of it, he should really. I think they're gonna want him to be there to make sure let's make sure all the new stuff still feels like it meshes well with the already existing stuff.
Yeah, I feel like with Sakurai, he has a lot of clout with clout. I'm sorry, he has a lot of clout with a lot of other developers, and that's one thing that I was kind of worried with Iwata's passing is Iwata was kind of the one that really brought Sakurai back all the time.
Yeah,
but I think even now, even with Iwata gone, a lot of developers still respect Sakurai. You had Aonuma basically beg him to return for Brawl. You had Miyamoto. I think Miyamoto gives him a lot of control, a lot of freedom with Miyamoto's characters, which is pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah, especially for Miyamoto.
Yeah, because you know how Miyamoto could be too.
Yeah, well, remember what Square Enix is like. I mean, there's always the infamous story that they wouldn't give the PlayStation guys use of cloud because they basically didn't trust them to do it right. But they were willing to do it with Sakurai. They were willing to trust him and give him quite a lot of control, according to that interview with Nomura and him.
Yep. Yeah, the Nomura ex Sakurai interview that we did.
Yeah.
He said that he didn't really even check it, really.
Yeah, he just trusted Sakurai to get it right.
Yeah, which is insane.
Yeah. Which I guess is another plus for why he should at least be coming back for this one, because this one's still going to have these characters in it. And you have no idea what a new director could do to make slight tweaks and alterations that might upset the initial publisher. So you just want the same director who initially worked on it. I feel like that's the biggest reason why Nintendo would want to bring Sakurai back.
And then on the flip side, I do understand why people don't want Sakurai to come back.
Yeah.
Because we published that series of articles, why Sakurai should and why Sakurai shouldn't come out. Back to Smash about a month ago on Source Gaming, and we looked at both reasons why he should and shouldn't come back. And for why he shouldn't come back, a lot of people are saying, well, he doesn't really understand the competitive community.
Yeah,
and you could argue that.
Yeah, I can see that point.
For what you've seen, in the Switch trailer and how they're embracing the competitive scene, that leaves a lot of questions open to the Smash community. And it also leaves questions if they're doing this port. I know you mentioned it, but how would that affect the Smash community, especially if there were minor tweaks to the game and it wasn't one-to-one with that of Wii U? Would they all have to adopt the new one? It would definitely bring about some controversy between the community, not like how it was for the 3DS and Wii U.
Yeah,
and then there's the issue of controller options too.
Yeah.
With if the game can be played with one Joy-Con, then that's gonna have to change up some things.
Yeah.
Well, does it? Because I feel like the game can be played with the Wii remote, and the Joy-Con is essentially just a smaller Wii remote. I feel like
the Wii remote hasn't been confirmed yet.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, Smash for Wii U can be played with the Wii remote. Yeah. And the Joy-Con has all the same buttons.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
The Wii remote has, I believe. So it has 4 face buttons. It has an analog instead of a D-pad. It's got
a Wii remote and a nunchuck.
Yeah, basically. So if you can play Smash with that, then I don't see playing it with a Joy-Con to be a real issue. I think what's the bigger thing with the competitive community is whether the Switch will use the GameCube controllers or not. And it might possibly do that because we've seen that it has USB ports on the side of the dock, Like on the go, it probably isn't doable. But when it's docked in at home, I don't see a reason why.
Yeah,
they can't.
they have the device already set up, and a lot of people already have it. And
Yeah.
they know they can make a good buck off of it because
And
like those things sold really well.
Yeah.
They made it just for Smash. That's the thing that drives me insane.
Yeah, this is their chance.
Smash is the only game that is supported by that device.
Yeah, this is the chance for them to start making it work for other games as well.
Yeah. Wouldn't be a bad idea.
But there's the issue of Sakurai maybe not understanding the competitive community that well. And then some people want to see a new direction on Smash.
Yeah.
They want to see what a new director could bring to the series.
No, I think that's a good thought, like a good thought experiment, what a new director could do, because everyone has their own sort of different taste on it. I personally feel, though, that if a new director does come along, I feel like it should be someone Sakurai picks. Like, I'd like to see Sakurai go into a kind of mentoring role and train someone up who he thinks would be make a good replacement. But if there is a new director, I feel like I'd rather see them try and reboot everything and start from the beginning and see how they can build it up that way, rather than like adding on to what Sakurai's already done. Because it
would feel weird.
Yeah. I think that
that's been
doing everything from again, even like just ignoring all characters, starting from ground zero. And you can have some returning stuff, obviously, because there's some stuff that just doesn't need to be changed. But I think that's a Marvel vs. Capcom 3 style reboot, let's say, where you cut the roster down significantly, cut all the content down, change the way the game feels while still keeping the obviously core gameplay in there.
Yeah, I've had similar thoughts about the whole idea of Sakurai stays or goes, because on one hand, if he stayed, like I like how he makes Smash Brothers, but on the other side, I actually kind of would like to see the series get some sort of change, because you never know, change can be good or bad for a series like Smash. And it would really be interesting to see how they would go about like adding stuff to the game, because when you get like another director, they could bring a whole fresh take of perspective. But like I want to agree with you, and like he probably was during Smash 4, I would believe that he was mentoring a team, and he like, because he can't develop the Smash series forever. He started with 64 when he was 19.
No, that's when he joined HAL Laboratories.
Yeah.
So he was probably he would have been about 20 something ish, late 20s when he was working on Smash, because I'm pretty sure he joined HAL in the late 80s.
Oh yeah, okay, that's right. So around then he's much older than I would have thought. So he's been developing Smash for a good portion of his life, and for better or worse, that takes a toll on you. And I would imagine that he'd eventually need to hand the series off, or at least take a less dominant role in the production of the game. So I would imagine the next one, if for whether it's the port or like the next Smash Brothers, that he would take a less directive role, just because of needing to like teach other people how to make the game. It's really been him for the last installments, like entirely.
Yeah, and I honestly think it should be a good thing for him to change things up, because I feel like an issue that Smash has is a similar issue that we see with a lot of games, like let's say Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, where they're competing with each other almost. Like every time the new game comes out, it just does what the previous one did, but with much more stuff. So apart from some slight differences, so obviously people go back and play Melee because they prefer the fast-paced nature of it and stuff. But the only reason people go back and play Brawl over Smash 4 is either for the Subspace Emissary, or because Brawl's engine was what they were used to and they can't adapt to the new one, in which case they're not going to go on to any sort of Smash. I've seen that with people.
Or they like Snake and Wolf.
Or they like Snake and Wolf.
Or Ice Climbers.
Yeah. So, but my point is, they make subtle engine changes and all that to make each game different. But apart from that, what reason do you have to honestly go back to a previous one? Like, what reason do people from Melee have to go back to 64 other than just the fact that it plays slightly different and nostalgia?
And it's only really the hardcore players that really go back to the older ones. Like, you don't see a casual consumer, unless they already own it and like it's the only Smash they have. You don't see them going back out of choice if they have the newer one.
Exactly. And I feel like with the latest one, it tried to hit a good balance. and I'm not sure if Sakurai continues on and just adds to this and stuff like this after an enhanced port. So for the next one, what stuff he can add to, I don't know, make it different enough from this one that it just doesn't completely leave behind everything. I think that's what a new director could do. You'd have the Sakurai line of Smash Brothers games, and then whoever directs it next, and they could be different enough. And if people could continue playing Smash 4 or Melee or whatever, but could also play this new sort of line of Smash, and they wouldn't conflict with each other. I guess that was my point.
Going back real quick, Sakurai was born on August 3rd, 1970.
No.
So he was 29 when Smash came out.
Okay.
And then for new content, Sakurai has stated in one of his columns, Excitement and Exhaustion, that he thinks that characters are the ways that Smash differentiates itself. That through characters that's how you introduce new gameplay, because the basic engine, the basics, how to play Smash is pretty similar across all games. They have slight introductions, like Brawl introduced Final Smashes, Melee introduced the side specials.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Smash 4 did customs, I guess.
Yeah, Smash 4 did customs.
What will the new one add?
Yeah.
Shake the Joy-Con to attack.
Only 2-button Smash. I've been thinking about it, like if they were going to make about like a new Smash or reboot of sorts, like how would they do that? Because I feel like they have so many characters in this new one especially if they go about making this new port, like how would they really make the new Smash like different from previous ones, where the consumer can like understand that this is like a big difference in the gameplay, but they still get what they came for with all the characters fighting. Yeah.
Well, that's what I think the benefit of an enhanced port means, that they don't necessarily need to worry about it being different from the Wii U one, because if people are aware that it is it's the Wii U game but better, it's everything you liked but it has more stuff, then they've seen this happen before with plenty of games. People don't go in expecting it to be something completely different. They expect it to be a better, for people who didn't buy the Wii U one, it's a good value because it gets all the DLC and all this for a system that they actually have. And for the people who already had the Wii U one, I mean, that's what we're saying. There needs to be content for people to be glad that they upgraded.
Yeah.
One thing that they could do is right from the get-go, they could change the name so it's not a Smash for Switch. They could call it Super Smash Brothers Armageddon, something like that.
You think?
That's one way to break away from the Wii U in a very obvious way, and especially if it has new content, I think that's something that Sakurai might opt for.
Well, I disagree with you on that one. I think if it's going to be in a brand new game, entirely brand new, then it shouldn't be called Smash for Switch. It should be something else. But if it is just an enhanced port, I feel like it should definitely have the For Switch moniker, because it would. You wouldn't be tricking people into making them think, oh, this is going to be like totally new. This is going to be like completely different from Smash 4. And then they get it and they realize this is exactly the same game that I already owned with a couple new features. Like people, I mean, they might not mind it in hindsight, but people don't like being fooled like that.
The reason that Sakurai actually went with the 4 3DS and 4 Wii U is because the games were coming out relatively at the same time, and he didn't want consumers to be confused.
Yeah.
So if it was Super Smash Bros. Lightning, is that the 3DS version? Is that the Wii U version? Casual consumers might not understand which one.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the same thing for Switch. I mean, I know it's going to be an enhanced port of the Wii U version, but we're assuming it still has different stuff added on. And I think having the For Switch moniker just kind of like, they know, oh, this isn't going to be exactly the same as the Wii U version. It's got it. I don't know.
Maybe call it Super Smash Bros. Deluxe, Superstar, Ultra,
Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Edition
with Knuckles.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, I guess I do see your point, but I kind of feel like it would be better to have them all be associated with each other if they're all basically the same game with the same engine and stuff, just different stuff in each one.
I can see it going both ways. If they're gonna make the content available on the 3DS or the Wii U, which I don't think they would, then I think a Smash for Switch would make the most sense.
Okay.
But I think if they're gonna treat this as a new standalone entry, then I don't know. It could go either way.
Yeah. Well, we don't know that for sure yet.
Yeah. We don't know anything really.
Well, hopefully we find out in January. I mean, if Smash is coming out this year, unless it's like very end of the year, I kind of think they'll show it off in January. At the very least, if it has new content and new characters, I feel like they should show it off in January with a new character, maybe 2, and then do a kind of, not necessarily, they don't have to do pick of the day, but they can build up the hype by having directs with Smash Brothers characters in it again, E3, showing off new characters and stuff like that. Like, build it over up until release, whenever that is.
And that's the biggest hype draw.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, unlike, because I've seen people arguing, say, for Pokemon, with the new Pokemon Stars rumor and stuff, and that would most likely be a November title, because that's when Pokemon always does its stuff. And I've seen some people saying that there's a chance they won't show it off in January because it's an end of the year thing. Like, they want to focus the January event on launch titles and stuff that's going to be coming out within the first few months. But even if Smash is after that, I feel like they should show it off just to start generating that hype and showing off all the new contents bit by bit like they did before, because I think it worked.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see a need for them to show off Star until later. Plus, this game just came out, so they don't want to really interfere with
that's
stuff
true.
Promoting that game.
Yeah, I'm sure Nintendo's not very happy about the rumor. Well, should we just jump into questions?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and just start addressing some questions that we got over Twitter. So the first question comes from Sakurai Smooth, and he asks, "Is this even going to happen? Is a Smash for Switch even going to happen?" And well, we've been kind of talking about that for the past, I think, 30 minutes or so.
Yeah.
The answer is no. It's all a lie. We've played you.
Yes, we've been wasting everyone's time.
Yep, we just tricked you. Ad revenue.
You won't believe.
I'd be surprised if it didn't happen, to be honest. Like,
yeah, no, same.
Yeah.
I think at the very least, an enhanced port. No, the ports definitely happen. Whether it's enhanced or not is an entirely different matter. But it's at the very least, it will be a Smash game based on the Wii U version coming out next year for the Switch.
For me, I think there's just way too many people talking about it who have no connection with each other. As far as I can tell, Toto doesn't really talk with Laura or Emily Rogers.
No, I mean, they were disputing over the NX thing. I mean, they thought Toto thought it would be a completely different day than what everyone else did.
Yeah, he thought it would be announced much later.
Yeah. So,
and then so I just think there's way too many people talking about it that I'd be very surprised if it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question comes from Nintendo, who asks, "Do you think character balancing will be on a major scale or a minor scale?"
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, that's really good. For me, I think it really depends on how many characters gets added. If we see a huge roster update, then I think we could see a major character balancing. But if it's a very minor update, then maybe not that much.
Well, that's how updating works. They have to balance every character off of what each character does. Yeah. And so new characters could, especially if they have new gimmicks, could completely change up how some characters work. Like some characters could have abilities that become so much better against this particular character or so much worse when paired up against them, and stuff needs to be balanced against that to make it at least somewhat even, which is why it's difficult to balance when you have so many characters in a roster.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, not even just considering if they add new characters, just with the regular roster, if they go about balancing that based on what they've been seeing from Smash Wii U, and instead of just changing that, they update it so that game day one comes out with like a patched version with different, maybe not entirely different, but stuff would feel different.
That's true. Will Jigglypuff finally get the buff that she needs?
Maybe all the other characters would just get downgraded
to match
just to
go the
Jigglypuff's
opposite.
level.
And then Meta Knight somehow as good as he was in Brawl.
I don't know how that got off testing.
Yeah.
This is why you need a bigger team of balancers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at the very least it will get balance like it did, like Smash for Wii U did. So even if it's not a big balance at the beginning, they'll see how things react when out in the field and release patches and updates to keep it balanced. Because they did that even before the DLC came out. So there's no reason to think that they won't do it again.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I think Sakurai said he wasn't even sure if balancing was going to even happen for Smash for Wii U.
No, he said he wasn't, but then it happened like a month or two later.
Like 8 times.
Yeah, and then kept going on and on. So
I always wondered if that was a translation error or not.
I mean, there's a lot of things I think he said that he's not he's never sure. Like, I mean, when I know it's a mistranslation when he said there wouldn't be DLC. I know that's a big misunderstanding, but I believe it was just something along the lines of he wasn't sure, or there was no plans at that time because they were still developing to do it. So it may have very well been at the time when he said that he didn't actually have any plans to do any balancing. He didn't know if he'd need to, maybe. And then he did. So he did it. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then the next question comes from Fumi-chan, who used to go as Blue Pikmin. He wrote a couple articles for Source Gaming.
The next 3 questions, in fact.
Yeah. Well, I think they're kind of all the same. So the first one is he wants us to talk about Bethesda characters in Smash. So Doom Guy or someone from Skyrim. I personally think that's very kind of unlikely. Just because very recently Sakurai has been saying again and again that Smash is a game to promote Japanese games. And so with those comments, I think a Western character is less likely to happen.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree. I don't think any character from a company like Bethesda would even come close to being in Smash just because of their recent, just because how recent they are and they don't really have as much history.
Yeah. Well, Doom Guy is quite a big one. I mean, Bethesda own the rights to it now. They didn't make it when it first started. But Doom Guy, I understand because he has the history. He's although I would consider Master Chief to be more the Mr. First-person shooter nowadays, Doom Guy was Doom was the game that pioneered that almost. And Skyrim, I know Elder Scrolls is popular. I don't think it's video game changing. But I think the fact that it's coming to the Switch and is meant to be a launch title is the reason why I've seen people thinking it might be a possibility that he gets in here. And no, for Dovahking, who's the main character in that game, I don't think there is any sort of chance. I think a big reason for this, and one to consider that I'll probably bring up again with some other questions, is that the roster for this game was likely decided probably in February, right after the DLC ended, when they decided to do new content, if they did decide that. And so anything unless Nintendo had it planned, unless Sakurai knew it was going to happen back then, I don't see it impacting this Smash at all. So Sakurai at that point, it may not have even been any sort of plans to bring the Skyrim to the Switch. Which would
because with Smash for Wii U, I think the project plan was finished in 2012.
Yeah, it was finished it was finished 2 or 3 months after Kid Icarus Uprising had finished, and just after Fire Emblem Awakening had come out, which is which Sakurai says because of how big those 2 games were at the time, that was why they were a big influence to get a character from each of those games in Smash. There was also the fact that he worked on Uprising, so a Kid Icarus character was obvious, and Awakening was such a big success. So a character from that seems obvious. Yeah. But his specific reasoning is, Chrom, although it became Robin, Awakening was just come out. It was on everyone's minds. So he wanted to make sure someone from that game got in. And the Skyrim, I think at that time, back then, I don't even think the HD remastered version was even announced. So I don't think Skyrim was really on anyone's mind
Yeah.
at the beginning of
Not
this
at all.
year. And Doom is the same sort of thing. Although a Doom game came out this year, I don't remember when it was
Yeah.
announced, but it certainly wasn't coming out. It certainly wasn't big on Nintendo fans' radar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and if it wasn't, and since it didn't come out on a Nintendo console, Sakurai that would make it less likely that Sakurai would know about it.
yeah. So anyway, the next question from him.
Yeah, the next question is about the flip side is franchises that are very popular in Japan. So Monster Hunter, Yokai Watch, and Dragon Quest. What do you think about those series getting a
Those
possible representation? Alax, do you want to start off
Yeah,
with this
I was
one?
gonna say like Yokai Watch. I mean, I've been looking at Nintendo's Twitter, and I don't know, they just very much so. Whenever that game was coming out, they were very much so advertising it, and they very much. I don't know. I feel like it's possible for Yokai Watch, even the other titles, especially since it was was it popular in Japan? I feel like it was.
Oh yes. I mean, I've been here for like a week and a bit now in Japan, and I see Yokai Watch just as much as I see Pokemon everywhere. It is
Yeah.
all over the
That's-
place. Kids at school have it as their like towels or lunch boxes or pencil cases or shirts with Jabanyan over it just as much as you see
there you
Pikachu
go.
or Super Mario.
That was my only premise for it being like possible, just because it seems like it's very popular there. I don't think it's like that at all here.
No, it's
Like,
not.
yeah.
In the West,
I don't hear about it.
I don't think the first one did particularly well, and the second one has come out to very little fanfare, unfortunately. Because it's not like I played the first one, and it's fine. It's a fun little game. I think kids would really enjoy it. And then the second one I hear fixes a lot of the problems I had with the first one, so which means it's probably better.
Yeah.
So it's just I think it's just not something that people over here were impressed by, especially because it was probably overshadowed by Pokemon.
Yeah.
But in Japan, it's really popular, and I mean, yeah, he's right. All three of those are popular. Monster Hunter is huge, Yokai Watch is huge, and Dragon Quest is huge.
Yeah.
My only thing with it is Yokai Watch could happen. I think, although as much as I'd prefer Professor Layton, if there was any level 5 character to get in, I think Jabanyan is probably the most likely of them at the moment because of how big that series is. Monster Hunter is also pretty big at the moment, but I know that the producers of Monster Hunter have talked about that they don't like the idea of the hunters being put through crossover games. That's why they're not in Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff. So they got in as Mii Fighter costumes in Smash 4, but that's just armor basically they've put over a Mii. I think an actual Monster Hunter won't get in. A feline possibly, and maybe something from that new Monster Hunter Stories could possibly get in. But it's with 2 Capcom reps already. It's
But the amount of reps per company doesn't matter.
I guess it doesn't. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
true.
at this
That is
point.
true.
It's not a rule.
I don't know. I guess
Get off this podcast.
part of me feels like they should appeal to other companies and try and get some other big names. But
Company loyalty doesn't matter.
no, I just want to see more companies included.
Yeah.
Honest, for me, I would say that Dragon Quest is the most
You
likely.
think? I feel like
Yes.
Square are very protective of their IPs, and although they allowed Cloud in there, it doesn't necessarily mean they would allow. Dragon Quest is the next logical series from Square.
Sakurai
yes.
did an interview with Masuda and Hori. I believe Hori's the producer of Dragon Quest.
Okay.
And he just, Hori and him were just gushing about how amazing Dragon Quest was.
I guess this brings up the idea of who would you pick though as a rep from Dragon Quest, because unlike the Tales of series, which has Lloyd, and the Final Fantasy series, which has Cloud, I don't think there really is a Dragon Quest main character who stands out so much. I mean,
there's the newest version is coming out for the 3DS.
the hero of
Switch
Dragon Quest
and-
11, but no one knows who the hell that even is, if he's even got a. Because unlike Final Fantasy, I feel like all Dragon Quest main characters are always avatars. They're never actually a character. They're just.
Yes.
I feel like that's the case in every single game, and the only one I've seen the most use out of is the one from 8, because it was on the PS2 and it was the really big, like, oh, we're changing everything up. Apart from that, and maybe the first guy, I don't see any other major ones.
Hori said, I believe that his favorite was the second one. Sakurai actually never committed to saying which one was his favorite in the interview.
Well, with Dragon Quest, I think a slime is obviously what everyone knows, but I don't think that's doable
think
for a
it's likely
playable
for a fighter.
character. No, I could see Dragon Quest
this trophy,
costumes
yeah.
getting in for Mii fighters. I
Yeah.
could see that totally happening. They could take the main character from 11 or 7 or 8, seeing as they just got 3DS remakes, a slime hat. I could see that happening. Sure.
Yeah.
But as a character, I feel like Monster Hunter is the most likely.
So, Alax, do you think that Yokai Watch is the most likely?
From what I see, yeah, just because of recentness. I don't know. I feel like they should bank on that, especially with the new characters. Like even besides Japanese characters, maybe they'll say the new Mario has a villain in it. Maybe throw in that villain just because, like, oh, this game, and look at this game, we have this on the Switch too. I feel like that would help out, but I mean, I'll conjecture. There's no way to know. I would put my money on Yokai.
There's no way to know.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny because Nintendo was committing to Monster Hunter. I was committing to Dragon Quest.
Yeah,
Yokai Watch.
We have no idea.
So I thought that was a very nice balance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next question comes from Spiral. He's also written some guest articles for us, and he's wondering how they'll handle DLC from Smash 4, and if there will be new DLC for the Smash port, if any.
Okay.
So those are both good questions. Let's start off with the first one.
Yeah.
Alax, do you want to start off with?
Yeah.
with that one?
For sure. Like DLC from Smash 4. Like I'm guessing you're talking about the ones we already got. I feel like
Cloud.
Yeah.
And,
I feel like they go and balance them because Cloud's pretty good and Bayonetta was until she got like fixed up. But even Corn's like got some gimmick with her side B. Like that move is silly. So maybe they would balance them out as far as like changing them, but that would go for the whole roster. And for the new characters in the Smash port, like I just said, I think they'd go for recency if they're gonna pick them. Just based on the Switch coming out, but you never know with Sakurai and whoever's deciding this. So
is that what the question he's asking? I thought
he's asking like if the characters will be included.
Yeah,
I believe.
I mean, what I got from that question is basically my answer was going to be that they'd include all the DLC in the base game. You wouldn't have to pay for the DLC again. Although I do agree with everything you just said, then Alax. Like I 100% agree with that.
Need to be balanced.
Yeah, they'll balance out the DLC characters a bit more for this game. But no, I think everything that's already in all the Mii Fighter costumes and DLC.
Yeah, I feel like it would just all come together.
Yeah, it would just already be included. All
right.
That's a lot of licensing.
That is a lot of licensing.
Wow.
I just wonder how the revenue is going to be split up for that.
Well, divide the roster and then
yeah, you got the costumes. They're all from different companies. You have about 2 or 3 per character.
They must have some sort of thing written out to figure this out.
I really want to read that contract.
Yeah. But for the second part of this question, I don't think they've planned any DLC. It could certainly happen, like it did for Hyrule Warriors Legends.
Oh, I see. That's
like that's what I think the question means anyway.
Okay.
I think they certainly wouldn't have planned any DLC. If they do, it'll run the same way as it did with Smash 4. That when the game is about to come out, they'll sit down and be like, "Do we want to continue this even further?" And I could see them saying no, simply because development has been going on since 2012. And with the additional DLC, it will be going towards the end of 2018, which is a 6-year
about time to stop.
work cycle. So I can see them not wanting to do that. But at the same time, it makes money, especially considering how expensive Smash DLC it was.
Yep.
Yeah, Smash DLC was the best-selling thing that sold on the Nintendo eShop, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not surprised when they're like £5 a character.
Yeah, that was something else.
But
yeah, that was expensive.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll do DLC. If anything, Nintendo will pressure them.
I wonder if it'll do
Pressure the
DLC
team.
for Mario. No, I know it's not anything to do with Smash, but Mario Kart for Switch now that it's been brought up.
I think it makes sense.
It does, but I mean, they did kind of they just did like the one pack for the Wii U version and then stop. But then again, there'll be even more tracks.
Yeah,
Crazy.
if there's already 64 tracks, it's gonna be a huge game.
Yeah. I'm excited. I can't argue with that. Love
Yeah.
Mario Kart.
Yeah, as long as they, at least at the very least, everything from the Wii U version is unlocked at the beginning. And I want to bring that up for Smash as well. I don't mind unlocking brand new stuff, but I kind of want everything from Smash for Wii U to be there from the start. All the stages, characters, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
I'm actually the opposite. I actually kind of like unlocking.
I unlock
things.
like unlocking stuff as well, but I don't want to unlock the same stuff I've already unlocked. Like I don't want to go sit through, and I don't want to go through all those missions just to get that one particular stage
the Wii U
again.
just had so little to unlock. Like the only thing that you could unlock were the random costumes that dropped, and that was awful.
Yeah, I hope they
customs.
fix that. They probably won't, but I hope they do.
God, that's if they have one thing that they fix, please.
And
Make it-
customs.
Yeah, and customs.
The way the
yeah.
customs drop, yeah,
That was silly.
awful. Like they really should have a store where you could buy it.
Yeah, like honestly.
If you know, because they have like you have tons of coins that you can't use for anything else either.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next question comes from Kevin Fagaragan. Sorry.
Kimoto Matt.
Yeah.
Kimoto
Yeah,
Matt.
he's a great artist. He drew my avatar.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah. He also drew Random Talking Bush
Oh.
and I believe Etika.
Oh.
Anyway, so do you think that there'll be a new big mode, kind of like the end of Smash Tour, where you switch out Smash or something like that? So I don't know if you guys remember, but at the end of Smash Tour, basically with all the characters that you collect, you have free for all, and you just try to whittle down everyone's stock until everyone is out.
Yeah.
And then there's a winner. And that was kind of a mode that's not available through any way else. You can only play that through Smash Tour.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do you think that that mode would come back for Smash in a Smash for Switch port? And do you think it would be standalone?
I mean, it would still be part of Smash Tour, assuming that is on Smash for Switch. But
Yeah.
as its own individual mode, I want it to be, because I actually think that's a really good idea, and it's like the best part of Smash Tour.
Yeah.
Whether it is or not, I don't think it will be. I'm interested to see what direction they go with the new modes for if they do any new modes at all.
Yeah,
Like-
that's a big thing to bring up, because doing DLC characters and stages is one thing, but like a whole separate like single player mode or any mode really,
Yeah.
that would be something else. Though I think another question goes into that, so we won't dive into that now.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, Project M, if you guys ever played it, they made a mode in a recent one where it's basically you pick like a couple of characters for each of your stocks, and so it's definitely implementable.
Well, it's
Just,
the
I
thing,
don't
it's
know if
been
they would.
implementable since Melee. I mean, if you play through event mode, the computer characters do that all the time. You're like, one character dies and another one appears, but they've never made it an actual playable mode for people. And that's not like it's a not a trope in fighting games. I mean, you look at Tekken and stuff, and they've been doing that all the time. They've had plenty of modes. Tekken Tag is built around that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As is the versus Capcom series. So it's not like it's been there, but they've never chosen to include it in Smash for whatever reason.
Yeah,
So-
there's a lot of stuff they could add to Smash, which goes to that would be cool if they brought another director. There's so much they can do, and no one really thinks about it.
Yeah. No push.
For me, I don't know for sure that Smash Tour would come back for Smash for Switch, because Smash Tour was kind of created exclusively for the Wii U version.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Smash Run, it was made for the 3DS version because it tied into Sakurai's idea of the home console and the public console, and the home in the stadium, the public and the private one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we'll get those modes back, or if we'll just get a new replacement mode.
Yeah, well, it depends what their motivation is, what their goal is with this game. I mean, if it's just taking the stuff from the Wii U version, putting on the Switch and adding more stuff, I see no reason to cut the mode.
Yep. With the Switch being kind of in the middle, though, it kind of
Begs the
introduces a
question.
lot of dilemmas. Like for a game designer, do you go for the portable experience or do you go for the home console experience? Sometimes you can't do both.
Yeah.
I feel like Smash would focus more on the home console experience if they had to pick one, because that's what it's always been. and that's
Yeah.
where
That's
it's
the roots, right?
Yeah, that's the one. You don't see people playing the 3DS version majorly at tournaments. You don't, and when people come round to play, you don't see everyone busting out their 3DSs if they have the Wii U
Yeah.
version. And as Smash is essentially a party fighting game based around picking characters and going against each other on like a big screen.
Yeah.
That's the mode that's the version that I think they should always focus on.
Yeah, especially since there wasn't really the single player modes for the two games weren't exactly like they didn't take long for you to play them.
Yeah,
There's not
No.
much for one person to do in the game. It's very much a communal game.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
one thing I didn't consider is just them adding some of the 3DS stages into the Switch port.
Yeah,
And
I don't think
know how
they'll add.
possible that would be.
I don't think they'll add all of them because some of them have been built around the idea of the individual
Like
screen.
Pac-Maze?
Yeah, Pac-Maze, Golden Plains, Tomodachi Life to an extent. They've all been built with the idea that everyone has their own individual screen. Find Me as well, I think. But
okay.
some stages like Magicant, Mute City,
Yeah.
Balloon Fight, they're all just like regular stages. And I mean, there's a bunch of returning stages that are exclusive to 3DS, like the melee ones like Corneria and Brinstar. All of them could very easily be brought over to the Switch version. One thing I do want to bring up actually regarding that, I don't know if it does come up as a question later or not, but I've seen a lot of people saying about all the stages they could bring over, but I think a lot of the stages in Smash for 3DS are built specifically using assets taken from the games. So Spirit Train, for example, is using the Spirit Train from Phantom Hour, from Spirit Tracks, and then it makes some additional. It adds to it to make it suitable for fighting, but all the background and the train itself is all taken from that game. Nintendogs, the dogs running in the background, the cats are all just directly ripped from that game.
Yeah, so it'd be more development time to actually port those games because they would have to recreate the assets in higher resolutions.
Yeah, whereas something like Magicant was created from the ground up, and something like Balloon Fight and Mute City just uses sprite work basically and isn't that difficult to do.
Well, Mute City, I think they probably just port the game. That's what they did with what was it, the other F-Zero track?
Yeah,
Big Blue.
Yeah,
Then they just ripped the track.
Mute City and put Zero Aero Drive. Yeah. I mean, they would just rip the SNES track. My point was that because it's sprite based, even if for whatever reason they had to make it from the ground up, you just take the sprites from the game and you slap them on the screen, and then you just figure collision out. It's not nearly as difficult as
graphic
making
intense.
Spirit Train from the ground up for the Switch version.
Okay. Well, I guess let's go ahead and address the next question. Next two questions are kind of almost a little tie into a little bit. So what are the chances of a new character being created without Sakurai's hand in it? Ice Climbers don't count because they were on the project plan originally, and that's from Orchestra.
Okay. So I think that it's unlikely for this one. I mean, I've said this a lot during the podcast, but I feel like if Sakurai doesn't come back, then the amount of new stuff we're going to see drastically decreases because Smash 4 Wii U was his game and he was the director, and any new director would have conflicting design with what's already in the game. So I don't see any new characters. I mean, it's an interesting thing that you said with the ICs being on the project plan, whether that really counts, because it just because it's on the project plan doesn't mean that a new director wouldn't come along and design it differently, like to how they see it. Like, oh, Ice Climb's on the project plan, I'll follow this, but my own personal bias, my own personal take is going to still show through.
Yeah.
But assuming it doesn't, I think that we could see a bunch of returning stuff happen. Stuff that Sakurai's already made in previous games, essentially untweaked outside of balancing. Like, if Sakurai really doesn't have a hand in it, I wouldn't see any brand new characters, but a lot of returning characters if they still wanted to add content in. Like, I mean, when they brought Dr. Mario back for this one, they purposely kept him as he was in Melee. And although some characters changed like Roy did, I think if they were to bring characters back, Squirtle, Ivysaur, Wolf, Snake, Pichu, Young Link, Ice Climbers, they could all be brought back relatively unchanged, apart from obviously fixing broken things.
Yeah.
And that I don't think Sakurai would need to put his hand in that for it to work.
Because he could just be overseeing. Like if they're adding DLC, maybe he's not taking his full hand in it, but he's overlooking it. And like, I don't know if you know the Dragon Ball Super, how it produced, but Akira Toriyama doesn't actually do it. He just looks over the new manga writer. And he just gives them the story in the general, and he tweaks things in both the manga and anime. So it could follow the same idea.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think it just really depends on what Nintendo wants to do. I think it's possible to have new characters without Sakurai being involved with it. It just, again, it all depends on Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Alax?
No, I think like I said, I think like it's possible for them to go about adding new characters. They don't really need him, because I guess if they developed with him during Smash 4 and they have a feel for how he develops things, I would think without him at all, I don't think they could, but him in a minor role, it would be okay for him to just participate on the back lines as they develop some of this stuff, because I don't know if Sakurai really wants to continue developing this game for so long. He must be tired of it by now.
All right, guys, and the next question is from Wade. He asks, if the Inklings were to get in, how would you utilize its ink mechanics from the games? And this is a pretty interesting question, something that we've had a lot of internal debate on in Source Gaming. But I'm going to go ahead and let Relax talk about it first.
Yeah, no, I've thought about it, because if any of the newer characters I thought was going to be included as DLC, it was going to be the Inkling. Just like as my own like bias, I thought they were like a really good fit for Smash as a new character. And so I've thought about this before, where it's just how their ink would be used and how they would like paint a Smash battlefield. That would be like pretty hard to do, especially with, because you'd have to paint, and that would cause a mess. I don't know about programming, but it sounds like a mess, literally and figuratively. But yeah, I feel like they wouldn't utilize it in the way that they do in Splatoon. They definitely would paint like enemy like opponents. That would be interesting, and like they would get stuck in paint, maybe paint a bit of area and then it would fade away, but I don't think it would see the same extent as it does in Splatoon, because that's about literally painting everything. But maybe painting stuff strengthens your attacks. If you know Orcane in Rivals of Aether, you throw a little paint drop on the ground, and then when you do your smash attacks over that paint drop, or you run over it and you slide, it maximizes its like power. So maybe something to that extent would be interesting for the Inkling, but that's as far as I thought about it.
So like a small buff, basically.
Yeah, like a small buff, like extends the hitbox and the range and the power.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about
so
Nintendo?
I've got a whole article on that on Source Gaming, which was one of the first ones I wrote for Source Gaming. The Dream Smashers Inklings article. I think go read that, see what my old opinion was of it. I think it's slightly altered now. I feel like as Splatoon is a game all about shooting, it's a third-person shooter after all from the get-go. Using the paint as ink attack, like as an ink sort of mechanic, ammo mechanic, where all of the Inklings movesets are based around ink, and the amount of ink they've got shows how strong the attack is. So when they run out of ink, their attacks are weak, barely do any damage. And the way to refill it is by using their special or down special attack to turn into squid form and jump into ink, or shoot ink on the ground if there's none already there. Now, I don't think that you would cover the whole map in ink, because I don't think you'd be able to do that from a technical level. But having it just like a refilling mechanic, a charge almost like Cloud's Limit Break, where they just turn into squid form and fall in a puddle of ink that just appears below them to refill their ammo. I think that's a good way to utilize the ink, and it still stays true to how it works in Splatoon.
Yeah, because in Splatoon, if you run out of ink, one way to refill it is to go into the ink.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of you, I see a lot of people suggesting that they would paint the whole stage, and I think that would be very difficult to program, but also be make stage selection vital for the character, because that means travel in stages and um, transform in stages would be very difficult for the Inklings if their movement was based on the ink.
Mm-hmm.
On a Omega form, it would be perfect, but yeah, with the amount of variables that's in Smash, it would just be too difficult.
Maybe we've never seen a character like that, so you never know. But I would think it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, and just if you look at other fighting games and how they have done shooting characters, I think it would maybe fall in the line of more of that. Okay. Well, the next question is from Mr. Liam Robertson, who asks, given the rumors of other ports add in plenty of content, how many characters would you expect if Smash followed suit? Nintenjax, you want to start us off with that one?
There's a lot of variables to take into account, I think, with this. We mentioned before in the podcast about if Sakurai comes back and how that might affect things, and whether it will be an enhanced port or whether it be a new game will also affect things. But if we're going to assume it's like the other ports coming to the Switch, where it's like the game with a couple of new features added in, I think that we're gonna see something similar to how DLC was, at least for all the core stuff. I think it's reasonable to assume around 7 characters, maybe 8, because there's a bit more time than the DLC had for this. With a couple of them being veterans like Ice Climbers and Wolf, and maybe Squirtle and Ivysaur, maybe Snake, maybe Pichu, maybe Young Link. Like some veterans, new characters, and then if they do have any leftover time, they could always have some clone characters. You don't know. Maybe they'd planned for Smash to be a launch game, and then it got pushed back because they didn't want it competing, and they were like, "Oh, we have extra time. We know how much Sakurai likes trying to put in as much stuff as possible," and so that could always be a an excuse to add more characters. But I think 7 is the best number to go for, even if because not only does it match the DLC, but if Sakurai wasn't in it and they decided, oh, we want new stuff, but he's not there, let's just add in veterans only. There are 7 veterans, so it would fit all of them. Like you could get them all in. That's still a good old 7.
Okay, how about Alax?
Yeah, I would say around that number, maybe less, because I don't know if they would start like making them as soon as development ended. Maybe they take a break, but I would say around then seems logical, and every reason you gave, I agree with. So,
yeah, I would say about 7. It really depends on if they're gonna add new modes and also new items or stages. Basically, a lot of variables that we don't know.
Yeah.
With the other ports, it's been rumored that they will have lots of new content, not just characters. For example, like the Mario Kart is rumored to have stages.
Yeah. Well, DLC for Smash had stages, Mii Fighter costumes, and characters. So it's really modes and how they get in the way. Because I feel like, I mean, development of items is also obviously a big one, but I guess it's a bit more taxing to make a brand new item than a costume, because you have to think about how that item works with everything. So
yeah, there's a lot more variables to take into consideration. Well, Liam follows up that question with, do you have any realistic ideas who could make the cut in such a situation? So, Alex, you want to start us off with that one?
Yeah, well, Nintenjax, he already said like a lot of veterans, and I have to agree with that. If Sakurai wasn't around, they'd probably add veterans. If we're thinking newcomers, again, maybe Inkling. Other than that, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe they would go back and look at characters like Shovel Knight or Rayman. There's no way to know what they would be thinking, because I know no one expected Corrin or Cloud, so it's really up in the air at that point.
Yeah, so I have my own sort of like mini guideline for who I kind of expect in this one, following from what Smash has just done in the past. which I mean never is never always accurate, but it's a good rule to follow, I think. So this sort of they would have decided the move like the characters probably all around backing beginning of this year, let's say, after the DLC finished, and so I think it's a good time to look around who's relevant at that time. But also, if Sakurai is aware of something that's happening, he may be willing to look forward to character stuff like Corrin, but also Greninja. Like X and Y wasn't out when he planned Greninja. He'd just planned for a new Pokemon because he knew they were making one. And with Sun and Moon being announced at the beginning of this year and the anniversary, a similar thing might have happened. Sakurai may have well been like, well, they're doing it, and it's obvious they're doing a new Pokemon generation. So if I put Pokemon from Gen 7 down, and then I will inquire about it when I can, and add this character.
Yeah.
So, which is why I think of all the Gen 7 Pokemon, Decidueye, I think, is the one they're kind of pushing at the moment to be the next Greninja. That's the one Ash gets in the anime. And Rowlet was like an instant favorite with fans and stuff.
Yeah.
And Sakurai was good at picking it. I mean, he picked Froakie and Greninja because he figured they would be the popular ones. And I'm sure Pokemon Company was like, oh, this is the one that they're going to be pushing. And it worked.
Yeah.
And I think that with that logic, I think a Pokemon from Sun and Moon breaks the mold of needing to be relevant at the beginning of the year because it's a special situation. Pokemon is always going to be big. So it makes sense. Apart from that, I think Inklings are a good choice. I think that obviously Splatoon is so big, especially if the Switch launches with a new Splatoon game, whether it be a port or not. Inklings seem like very obvious. Veterans, you're right, I mentioned them. I would say at the very least 3 veterans. I think Wolf and Ice Climbers are a safe bet. The other one, I want to say another Pokemon. I want to say Pichu or Squirtle, but it could be either way. I think a third party is also very likely, whether or not that third party is just Snake coming back, or whether or not they have someone else new. Like the Rayman, Raven, Rabbids, Mario crossover could potentially boost Rayman's chances, or just the chances of a Rabbid being added in.
Yeah.
Minecraft being on on the Wii U could have helped to boost that game's popularity, considering how big of a IP that is. Or it could go something completely minor like Shovel Knight is being published by Nintendo in Japan, which is what some other characters got, like Rayman and before, which is why he got a trophy. So Shovel Knight could be like they could be trying to boost that character. He's got an amiibo, he's got stuff. They like Yacht Club games. They could be including it as an indie sort of character. But whatever they decide to go direction with the third party, I think at least one third party is a big possibility. And for the last sort of character, I think they'd look towards the Ballot, because they did mention that ballots in the Japanese one, that they would use the ballot results for other games. Yeah. And unlike with DLC, where you need to pick a character that's not only popular but will definitely sell, that ones that they think are known, I think when it's a part of the base game, they could kind of go all out, and this is when you're going to get your Isaac or your King K. Rool or whatever, because they clearly had a very specific idea for how they wanted to do DLC for Smash 4, and I think those restrictions are kind of lifted from this Switch port.
Yeah.
So those sort of big fan choices are more likely this time. I would put money on K. Rool just because I do think he is probably the choice that got the most votes. But I wouldn't ignore Dixie Kong or Bandana D or a Rhythm Heaven character or anything else that might have got a high vote in the ballot.
Yeah, it's a little difficult for me to pick 7 characters. If I were to pick only 7, I guess it would be Wolf, Ice Climber, just for those revival veteran characters. Then I would put King K. Rool, Decidueye, definitely. Inkling, I think, is on everyone's mind. It's the biggest Nintendo IP. They have to be in the next Smash. And then I think there would be one third party character, and then one retro character. And I think the retro character could be either Takamaru or Donkey Kong Jr.
Yeah.
For the third party, that's a little iffy. Like you said, the Rayman could improve Rayman's chances, the Rabbids crossover. But I still think that he's going to pick a Japanese game. Just because it's just easier for Sakurai to communicate with those directors and to get approval and to have their understanding with those characters.
I kind of want Snake to be the one that comes back, and not only because of his veteran status, but Konami is, no matter what you think of them, they wore a big name in video games, and I think Snake can be a stepping stone to other Konami series to appear. Just how like Mega Man got in with Capcom, and then like I'm sure that made negotiating Ryu a lot easier because they already had ties with the game.
Well, even with Mega Man, they said that Sakurai said that he was one of the easiest third-party characters to develop, that Capcom just gave him over with no fuss.
Right.
And then I would say for third parties, I think Resident Evil is one of my top choices. Just because I feel like Resident Evil is such a big series. I believe this year is an anniversary year for them, and they have a new game coming out. I know it's not coming out on the Nintendo platform, but it's still a very relevant franchise.
Yeah.
And it's just weird that it's not in Smash yet. I know there's a lot of issues with that, with Resident Evil being in Smash because of the guns and the gore and stuff like that. But
yeah, I don't know who I'd decide for 7 characters, to be honest with you. I couldn't put names to. You guys said like a lot of good like possibilities, but at this point, like I don't know what they decide, because we all thought like we'd get Wolf back, but that never happened.
Yeah.
And like K. Rool, everyone was vouching for him, but that never happened. So I mean, I literally don't think anything. I think anything is possible, and like predictions that you think is gonna happen, it's a conundrum. If they do what we think they're gonna do, then hopefully they like add someone from Pokemon and maybe a Japanese newcomer, but I'd have no idea on who to guess.
Yeah, I think with Sakurai's comments on Gino, where he said that Gino was very popular with the Smash fan base, I think that gives more evidence that King K. Rool will be strongly considered, at least.
Yeah,
because if Gino was actually really considered for Brawl, then King K. Rool has to be considered for the next game.
Yeah.
Just because he was everywhere in every single community.
Yeah. Well, Sakurai has shown even before Gino that he's aware of some characters' popularity, like with Ridley and like with Waluigi, with the teas and stuff. He's aware of how big some characters are amongst the fan base. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that King K. Rool Mii Fighter costume was meant to be. Like it is, when you look at all the when you look at all the Mii Fighter costumes they chose, King K. Rool's is really random. Like a lot of them are either using assets that were already in the game, like the Flying Man or the assist trophy ones, or were done or third party, which case they were their own special thing, or were like a special promotion like with the Inklings, being done specifically because Splatoon had just come out. So King K. Rool was like this weird outlier where he got a Mii Fighter costume because he got one.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be some kind of acknowledgement that his popularity was there. That he just clearly didn't fit whatever idea they had for DLC for that game.
And the way they introduced them in both Japanese and English was a retro revival.
Yeah.
And I think, I've said this before, but I think with the DLC, it was very clear that Sakurai wanted third-party characters.
Yeah, I think they were easier for him to. It allowed him. It might have been easier to get companies in when it's on DLC because of how you'd split up contracts, and they might have also just thought the third parties would sell more. Like I'm pretty sure Cloud would have sold more than King K. Rool, and I'm pretty sure he did sell more than Corrin or any of the others.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go on to the next question. It's from Deji Magic, and he asks, will all the stages from both Wii U and 3DS version come back? Will they have DLC from the get-go? And will Break the Targets return? So
that's actually
relax.
Yeah. I love Break the Targets. Like I don't know. That's just like one of those modes that I like. cherished in like Melee, and I really liked it. And when it wasn't in Wii U or 3DS, I was just like dumbfounded because I'm like, why would you take out that mode? You already don't have so many single player modes. Smash Tour was
And it was
alright.
awful in Brawl.
What's that?
It was awful in Brawl because it was the same for everyone.
Yeah, that Melee's was the best if we had to rate it.
Yeah, no,
Brawl
Melee
was
is
still
definitely
good,
the best.
but
I think
mean,
the problem with Break the Targets is it's all right doing it for 12 characters. It's all right doing it for 20
Yeah.
odd characters.
Yeah.
Doing it for about 60 odd characters gets a bit excessive.
Yeah, because
Like,
in Melee
that's
that was each
why-
a different stage, like in
Yeah.
the files. So imagine having
Yep.
60
60
stages.
of them. Right. And I think Brawls was meant to be like, we're only going to have 5, but they'll range in difficulty and hopefully people will just try it, but it didn't work. And I
Yeah.
mean, they just kind of gave up for this one, had an entirely different mini game based around
Yeah.
breaking the targets, which wasn't as fun.
Which is a
It
shame.
is a shame.
Yeah.
And I don't think Break the Targets will return. I do have good ideas for how it should return. I think a good way would be to recycle stages that you fight on, but put the targets
Yeah.
around that stage, because not only could you help people get used to the stages, but you could the amount of stages will either equal or always be more than the characters in most situations.
Yeah.
So you could assign a stage to each character and that way have Break the Targets feel unique. Or you could even
Yeah.
set it up
Okay.
to have it be random on the stage so that it's always different every time you go, although that will make it hard. You'll be playing RNG to try and get the best time or destroy them all in that sense.
One of the things about home run contest and Break the Targets was competing for the best time or the furthest
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah.
That was like one of the key features. I think introducing too much RNG into that would
Yeah,
detract from that
which
skill.
is why
did.
that was just a suggestion, but I think the idea of using already existing stages and just putting targets around in set places is a good way to bring Break the Targets back without having to spend all the workload making all the extra assets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I don't think they're going to do that for a Smash port. I don't think all stages from both Wii U and 3DS version are going to return for reasons we talked about
Yeah. we've already said.
before. Yeah, and I think all the DLC will be available from the get-go.
I think most of it will be.
Yeah.
I don't see a reason to not have all the Mii Fighter costumes and stages and characters from the get-go.
Yeah, it would make
Yeah.
sense. Just package everything in and say this is the full game, this is the full experience.
Yeah,
You're not missing a beat.
I just worry about unlocking everything because if they're gonna throw all that in,
well, don't just
is
have
it
it
gonna
be.
be unlocked by default? Is it gonna be?
I would have it unlocked from
you know-
default. I mean, I said this earlier. I'd want all the characters, all the stuff that was already in the Wii U version to be there from the beginning. Have only the unlockable
Mhm.
stuff be the new stuff. For me, I think that's what
Yeah.
I'd rather have because I don't want to go through
But
that hassle of
They
doing
have to show
everything.
some of the new stuff in order to get people to buy.
Oh
the
yeah,
game,
yeah,
so it
yeah.
can't
Well,
all be-
you can
Yeah.
show it off and just have it locked. I mean, when you think about it, they did show off Duck Hunt and Bowser Jr. officially before the Wii U version had come out. I know technically the 3DS version had come out, but they'd
Yeah.
made reveal
Yeah.
videos for them just all the same. And
Mhm.
Sakurai has acknowledged the fact that with the internet nowadays, most of those surprises get ruined anyway. So I don't see that being as big an issue.
I just like unlocking stuff.
So do I,
don't,
Push.
I don't like having everything.
Yeah, it is a good part of games where you just unlock something. It feels like some
Yeah.
sort of reward. So they should put something or other, maybe unlock modes, like maybe new event matches or something,
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
something like I wouldn't want no unlocks.
Yeah. Give us costumes.
Yeah, the event matches in this version were pretty interesting because of the way that they kind of spread out. That it wasn't just a linear
Yeah, the
path.
branching path idea was pretty interesting. I liked it. All right, anyway.
So the next question comes from Blaze the Cat Lover, and he asks, "Do you think any characters are going to get cut in the Smash port, in the Switch port? If so, who's going to get cut?" And also he asks, "Do you think Lucina and especially Dark Pit could get changes to stop being so similar?"
No and no.
Nope.
Nah, I think
See,
for the first one, I think the fact that it is a port and they're just taking the Wii U content over. I said this before with Smash Tour, and I know you somewhat disagreed with me on that push, but I
Mhm.
don't see any reason to cut stuff that's already going to be brought over, and characters especially. Like, Sakurai has acknowledged that he
Yeah.
doesn't like cutting characters. He only does it because he kind of has to. He doesn't have the time to add everyone back in and all the new stuff when he's doing it
Yep.
to a different engine. But the fact that this will use the same engine, presumably, and is essentially just the same game with a few more stuff on top, there isn't any reason to cut characters.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to agree. There's no reason to cut any characters from the Wii U version. They're not going to pose a problem for the Switch because most of them were on the 3DS anyways, and the hardware is going to be stronger, no less. So I don't see any reason for them to cut anyone from the Wii U version or any modes or any costumes or anything. It just wouldn't make sense. And if they did, it would be one of those like head scratchers as to why they did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, I think even with the porting process, they still have to rebalance everything. So I don't think it's likely they're going to cut anyone, but I think there's still a possibility.
Yeah, it gives them a time to go back and rebalance. So I think they're going to use that. We've already talked about that though.
Yeah.
So
Do you think that Lucina and Dark Pit will be changed?
No, I think they're gonna. I'd like them to. I kind of wish Dark Pit had Pit's brawl moveset, but with a slightly different side B, because that would have been more
Annoying.
interesting. But I feel like characters like that are gonna stay relatively the same this time around. Unlike Roy, who got changes and stuff when he got brought back. I think there's no reason to suddenly try and change the moveset of these characters between a port. If it was a new game, maybe they might rework it, but if it's a new game, they also might just cut characters. I mean, like, I think the fact that it's a port, I think it's better to focus on newer stuff than try and drastically change the older stuff.
Yeah, the most I see them changing is just some balancing, because a lot of the clones in the game, if you check the tier list, like even sub clones, they're pretty low. Like Lucina, Dr. Mario, Dark Pit, they're just as good, if not worse, than their clone parent. So I would like to see changes to Dr. Mario just to like make him usable, but I mean that's a subject for another time.
Yeah, I think Lucina is kind of likely to get some changes just because of how much she's been pushed lately.
I think Dark Pit's more likely to get changed.
Dark Pit needs more changes, definitely.
I mean, Lucina tries to be Martha, even though she was trained by Crom in the canon. Her whole thing is that she's trying to be like Marth, trying to imitate Marth.
Yeah.
Which I know I've seen people say, oh, she should have a moveset where her attacks are similar to Marth's, but not nearly as precise. But I think that's a bit... I think Sakurai kind of hit that already by making it so all her damage is from the whole sword, because she's not as she doesn't have quite the skill Marth does to make it all on the tip.
Yeah,
like he's kind of already shown that. So I think keeping her that way is fine.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Clones will be clones. I mean,
yeah,
that was why they put them in the first place, so they wouldn't have to go and develop them.
Yeah,
super like a lot of work.
Yeah, and who knows? We might get
changing.
We might get more clones if they have some time. We might get Alf brought up, maybe to. He could be brought up to clone status, because I think that's fine.
Especially if the rumored Pikmin game is coming out. Actually.
Yeah. So, I think we kind of already answered the next question.
Yeah, the next question is from that Max, but we kind of already answered that. Is the Ice Climbers truly coming back? We have a discussion with Artsy Omni, so check that out on that, and kind of already discussed that in the last question. So let's go on. Sup the Gamer asks, do you think ballot characters that were voted will be newcomers? I think absolutely.
Yeah, I think they would. Less they would look from there.
Yeah, I said that they would at least get one, is what I said, and I mean my money's on King K. Rool. I don't think they'd mention it was a ballot character. I think he would just show up, but they did say that they would use ballot stuff for newcomers. So I think filling any space will either be now with whatever's relevant or with what is ballot. What are the fans like? That's the easiest way to test popularity, I feel, that Nintendo have at the moment.
Yeah. I think it's the best idea for them to look to ballot characters, but you never know. Like, he looked for ballot characters for Bayonetta, and then and then we got Corrin as well later. It's just like, okay, he does what he likes, but I feel like that would be a good place to base like the general public's like what character they want. But then again, that's outdated by a year, so who knows? I think they would look to it.
Yeah. All right, and then we just got two more questions. One is from Brandon SM101, and he says, "Do you think we'll get Chorus Kids if that rumored Rhythm Heaven game is coming to the Switch turns out to be true?" Nantenjax, do you want to take this on first?
Yeah, so the rumored Rhythm Heaven game starters, well, it's part of that rumor that people tried to associate with Laura, but yeah, she didn't actually say anything. It was that big thing that people thought, oh, all this is happening, and she was like, no, none of that is from me. And that was the only place I could find that was talking about a Rhythm Heaven Switch game, because I hadn't heard that for sure, especially as Megamix. I mean, I guess Megamix has been out in Japan for a year and a half now, but it just came out over here, and I don't think I still don't think that's enough time to make a brand new one. So at the very least, if there is a Rhythm Heaven Switch game, it'd probably just be a port of Megamix with maybe some more returning songs. But anyway, I do think a Rhythm Heaven character would be likely if they have more than 7. Like I already named what characters I think would happen, but I think Ballot, Choice, and could also be swapped out for just whatever's relevant. And I think a Rhythm Heaven with Megamix being out and stuff, and I think it did well comparatively. I know it got much better reviews than previous games. I know I enjoyed that game more than I did the previous Rhythm Heaven games. I think it's like slowly building itself up as a B tier franchise for Nintendo, and most B tier franchises have a character at this rate in Smash. So I think it's only going to be a matter of time before we get a Rhythm Heaven one. Now, if it's the Chorus Kids or not, it depends really if Sakurai had a specific vision that required the use of the Chorus Kids.
Yeah.
Like, if I was to pick any Rhythm Heaven character, I think Tibby would be the best choice, because he's the first Rhythm Heaven character who's actually been like the main character, the one that the game follows.
Yeah, who actually has a story.
And the only other there are a few other characters who could fit the role. People have brought up Marshall. There's Samurai Drummer, who was originally meant to be the mascot of the series, but basically never showed up outside of cameos after the first game. There's Karate Joe, who's been in every single game. But
the wrestler.
The wrestler's just popular one. But the Chorus Kids' whole thing is that there's 3 of them. So unless this moveset specifically required the use of 3 people, I don't see why he'd bring the Chorus Kids over other more relevant and popular characters.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Rhythm Heaven, but you mentioned you know your stuff, so I'll let you take that
one. Yeah, with Rhythm Heaven, it's kind of tricky because we don't have no idea how they would have played.
Yeah.
We have no idea what Sakurai was thinking. If it was any other series, we could have kind of maybe figured it out. But with Rhythm Heaven, there's no idea really.
The most logical thought would be that it'd be rhythm focused, because that's the whole point of the game.
Yeah.
But it could have also just been the fact that we could have 3 instead, like how the Ice Climbers were 2.
I feel like a rhythm focused moveset would just cause issues just because of music playing in the background and Anyway. Okay, so the last question is from Jassim, and he asks, what do you think about the Inklings and Paper Mario? Do you think that they'll be playable? We already talked about Inklings, so we'll talk just briefly about Paper Mario. And do you think there'll be more third-party characters?
So we already said about third-party characters. We already mentioned that we thought like there should be at least one, like based on what Sakurai was doing with the last DLC character. So I have to agree with that. There probably would be one more third-party character. We already talked about Inklings. Paper Mario, as much as I would like him, and I think that they have a lot to pull from the new game. Based on who you ask, some people liked it, some people didn't like it. It was a good game for the most part. Just the gameplay was not, but it did have great aesthetics, and it did have cool types of moves for Mario to do. So there's definitely a lot of stuff there they could pull from, especially the paper aesthetic they could work with. I think there's a lot they could go into, but if they were going to put him in, I would have my doubts, just because I think there are better choices, and that game didn't sell well to my knowledge, only because it was like the last release on Wii U. So unless they port it and they do a lot of rebranding with it, I don't think Paper Mario is gonna make it in.
So I don't think Paper Mario is in such a dire situation as you made it sound as. I mean, I just recorded, which might be out before this podcast, or it might come out afterwards, but a video about Mario characters in Smash Brothers in the future, and Paper Mario along with Captain Toad were the two most likely next Mario characters, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think part of that is because with Paper Mario, his paper mechanic is something very unique that we haven't seen from any other fighter in Smash. Like the closest character in the game already would be Mr. Game & Watch, but that's only because they're both like flat characters.
Yeah.
Game & Watch doesn't take advantage really of the fact that he's flat, whereas Paper Mario can do, and do lots of paper-based movements. And unlike like people being worried he might be like Dr. Mario, either a clone or it's just another Mario, at the very least, the later Paper Mario games have emphasized the fact that this is a different Mario from the one we know from the main games. It's like a different universe. It's meant to be a different character. That's why they crossed over in the Mario and Luigi games. And yeah, Paper Mario has been strongly relevant. I mean, he got a 3DS game and he got a Wii U game, regardless of what the perception was of those games. It shows that they're still willing to focus on Paper Mario. The newest game is very relevant, obviously, and that could potentially help his chances. My only thing is that, again, for a port, if it's with only 7 characters, I don't think he's important enough to make those 7. If we were getting like Smash for Wii U, which introduced 12, 13 characters from the beginning, then that's an entirely different matter altogether. I think that Paper Mario could be a potentially very likely candidate in that case. But with only 7 to pick from, I don't think he fits.
Yeah.
I don't think he's important.
Well, we don't know if it's only gonna be 7.
Yeah.
It really depends on
it could be
so many factors, but we just see 7 as being like the minimum,
well, that's
maybe.
why I haven't completely like pushed him out there, because he is possible if we get more characters than what we're thinking. But I just don't see. I don't think he will be added for this next game.
Yeah, I think I basically agree with you. I think if there's 8 or 9 characters, I think Paper Mario is very, very likely to get in. I think he's a very relevant character, very interesting character. A lot of people are afraid that he will just be another Mario, but he will definitely be able to stand on his own because of the paper mechanics.
Yeah, he's got the unique factor down. I just don't think he has the relevance factor, or even though we had a game, I feel like nobody really... Well, I guess that's debatable, but I feel like there are better choices before Paper Mario. At least in this installment. I would say in the next one he would get in, but not for a DLC character.
Yeah, I wouldn't see him as a DLC character. I don't think he would sell as much, generate as much hype. So I guess that wraps up our discussion for today. So thanks again for listening, and thanks again for Alax for joining us.
No problemo.
So where can people find you?
You Google search my name and you'll find all my little special links. But youtube.com/relaxalax or something, and twitter.com, or just at me at relaxalax. It's stupid and it rhymes, so you can't forget it.
Yeah, it's ALAX.
Yeah,
I always get that mixed up because my brain just wants to go with Alax.
Yeah,
but it's not. I'm Push Dustin. I'm from Source Gaming. You can follow me personally. I go by Push Dust In on all social media. On Source Gaming, you can look up all Source Gaming on Twitter. And Nintendex.
Yeah, you can also find me on Source Gaming and on Nintendo at Mr. Nintendo. Going through a sort of rebranding. I hope to have a channel to have some more personal stuff that doesn't fit Source Gaming. But when that's up, then I'll start plugging that. That's still an in development thing. So for now, I'm going to redirect you all to the YouTube channel for Source Gaming, which we're trying to upload more and more videos at. We've been doing quite a good consistent rate at this moment. We have a new
Yep.
series called Game and Fact, which I'm in charge of, along with Spazzy helping out. And we try and provide interesting facts while having fun gameplay to watch at the same time. So there's Mega Man has just come out for that, and I think that's episode 5. And we're going to do it every single week. We've hit schedule so far, so hopefully we continue hitting schedule. So go and watch all of them. They're not very long, so you could probably get through them all while eating a sandwich. So
if you're watching this on YouTube, check the description for all links to everyone. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, then please go ahead and check out the show notes or go on sourcegaming.info for more information. Thanks again for listening. I hope you guys have a great day.